Welcome back to the Review Board Podcast, the only review where we try to break down movies into a 100 percentage rating. Today we are going to have a look at Tropic Thunder. This is a comedy. A little bit of an older movie now, and certainly a little bit different, but still very hilarious. I was excited to get and watch this movie again and give it a rating because it certainly, I have very fond memories around this movie, and I wanted to see where it would fall within the scale. It's definitely not what you would consider a normal movie. I guess it falls into more of the spoof categories, but it rides a very fine line in the middle as still keeping those serious elements with the satirical undertones of very real issues. So let's have a look at casting. Casting, I think, will be actually quite an interesting topic for this movie because it has a huge star-studded cast. And obviously, the larger the cast, especially with such big names, is the more people that have to be perfectly within each of their role to kind of fit that top category. So it's interesting. Being on the comedy side, it's a little bit different. Certainly, everybody within the movie fit their humorous role very well. And so those parts that they're adding to the comedic factor is well achieved. So the question is, who excelled beyond that? Who was standout, and was enough of them stand out to hit that top spot? I think there are a few people within this movie who, not necessarily that the writing was made for them, but that they filled the space that they had within the movie, which I guess is coming at it from a little bit of a different side, and certainly for some of these people, it's a little bit of a different role. I think it has to be when you're coming into something from that more of a satirical side, because you can't be the same person or roles that you're used to and still be giving the movie what it needs. But are these people irreplaceable? I'm not sure. And so the differentiation there between what is the casting and what is acting, I think, is actually very tricky. Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. were exceptional. And how much of that is their chemistry and how much is them being made for each other within that position is hard to say. I mean, even some of the supporting cast were truly filled the space that their part gave them. Jack Black and Tom Cruise, both playing very different characters here, but really were lost within the role. So I think there is enough. I don't think everybody is perfect for their role. I do think as I say, it's defining the difference between being perfect for the role and filling the space. I think if you fill it well enough, you're captivating enough to hit that top spot, which doesn't always work, and certainly I wouldn't say works with some other films. But I think it is enough, and I think there's enough of the cast to reach that balance of fulfillment. So that is why I'm going to give it a 5. It's a little bit different. I might end up adjusting this a little bit to show the other elements where they can win that, made for the part, or exceptional in filling the space of the role. Okay, on to production. Now, production is very tied with the script here, but there are a few key elements where the production excelled in and of their own right. And I really liked that because it was unique and not something that I think I've ever really seen, or if I have seen it, it's not been done well in other movies. So it always is rewarded highly for trying things for the first time or making things work for the first time. Having this really strong introductory sequence for the actors in a unique way before the movie's even begun, before you've even rolled credits, and making that fit with the rolling of the credits. That setup is perfect. I loved it. It was, it really captures your attention from the beginning because you're not expecting it. You don't expect the movie to start there. The movie started before it started. And so it's like, what's going on? And that's, when it's done well like that, it's good. It certainly wouldn't work in a lot of other movies. But the fact that they found that and that works for them is really good. And the way they did the delivery in other places where they're trying to show the script elements, where they're trying to deliver this seriousness of these people being lost somewhere and believing that, was done very well, and keeps the script moving very smoothly, because if those production elements are not up to that scale to allow for that, it doesn't give the script room to do what it needs to do. And so that's really good. You might not even notice it because it's keeping everything moving. Is there anything that pulls it back a little bit? Do I want to be more critical? I don't think so. There's nothing that springs to my mind, and as rare as it is, I actually think I'm going to give it top marks for production. Because I like the idea that they've done these unique things and they've added these stuff that wouldn't work in other places and is unique and works because of the type of movie that it is. I like that because it encourages other people in other movies to not stick to what always works and to try and make something work for the type of movie that they're doing, even if it's a little bit different. So I really like that. Into the script. Okay, as I say, a couple of things are a bit harder here because of how well they're tied together. The casting and the acting was definitely very tied in this movie, but we will go into those details in the acting. Now that we've broken down the parts that made the script work, the production work, let's look at the script and whether that had everything that it needed to do. It moved very fluidly, which is good, and it had a lot of the parts. It did, however, fall into a bit of a trap that I don't like. It had a key moment right at the end that was dependent on writing something in to make it work. And in my mind, there is a fine difference between a twist that you don't see coming, that is something that's kind of there in the background the whole time, but you just don't know it, and that twist is revealed to you at the end, and you're like, oh my god, I never saw that coming, and that's amazing. That's really great. That's what you want. On the other end, when it's not done correctly, it's we've got this problem at the end of the movie we've got to solve. We've got to get these characters out of this situation alive, and we don't really have a way within the story that we've got to achieve that. So we're going to write this part in to make that happen. It's kind of out of place and out of nowhere. And that is not good. That's usually because of two things. One, because not enough time has been given to the scriptwriters to really solve the problem that is happening within the script, or that the scriptwriters don't have the ability to solve the problem appropriately, and so it's laziness. So, although the script balances a lot of arcs within the character's growth very well, and it balances the overarching movie of going in the right direction and treading that line between almost unbelievable and funny with the seriousness of, oh, wait a minute, this could actually happen. They did that superbly. And so those two things laced together very well shows that this is a very capable script, and almost probably would have got top marks for that. Probably would have been a 19, I would say, for script. Almost top marks, because they've done it very well, but they've not necessarily perfected it. It's going to lose marks for this moment of not properly answering that. Now, part of me suspects that may have been a deliberate choice, because they're saying, oh, we want people to remember that this is a funny movie and not take it too seriously, and so they're trying to make it overly funny in the comedicness of what's happened there. But I think in this case, if that is what's happened, they've taken that too far, or used it too much creative license to get away with something that should really be answered in another way. I mean, I think they could have made other things. They could have made other things funny to achieve that. And I think that's a crutch that they're relying on. But still an excellent script that's just being marked down because of these flaws. So we're talking about 17. Probably would have been a 19, but marked down a little bit for these flaws that haven't fully been worked out. Probably a creative choice, but a poor creative choice, where I think there was better alternatives to make those moments fit in with the overarching theme that they had so excellently crafted. Okay. So, the acting. Now we need to untangle that and break down all the points that worked and didn't work. There's a lot of layers to this movie. This is actors playing characters that are dealing with the emotions of the actors playing characters. So that's a lot of levels. It's a lot of levels of what you're trying to portray. Now, it works because it's a relatively simple premise, but when you are looking at actually delivering that, you realize that there's a lot of complexity there. There are some key things here that really made this work that might not have worked otherwise and would have gotten lost. And that is that they kept it relatively real to the actors, because that's what this movie was about. It was about the actors, not about the roles that they were trying to play. And so what they were able to get across and deliver was these real people that are actors and the things that they are going through to achieve that. And so the bond between Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., as these two actors that are both in the same field, that are trying to compete with each other to do things, and one's been very successful at it and one's not been very successful at that, was very well done. And you know, to a certain extent, we shouldn't be surprised by that. You know, Ben Stiller has played on that exact same scenario in other movies. But we still should look at and reward the success that he has in achieving that chemistry between the two of them, because that is very well done. And even so, the very real background things that are going on for the characters that are in amongst all that at the same time, who are observing these things going on, who are dealing with their own issues. You know, Jack Black playing a very different role of this kind of drug-addled actor who's so insecure about himself, going through such a range of emotions as somebody who's struggling with that, was hilariously done, but hilariously done in such grounded reality, because you felt that at every moment. You know, the other actors talking about the the very real cultural differences that are being dealt with between Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. And the only actor who had any sense in amongst all that, who is his own young actor trying to make his break in it, you know. All of these things are masterfully done. And as I say, even Tom Cruise as well in the background, who was just the epitome of everybody's hated executive asshole, who just does not understand human emotion or morality or anything else. Just this goon who's only fixated on one thing. It's hard. It's hard to have all these complex things and to balance them so well. So we've got high complexity, we've got the emotional content, we've got exceptional chemistry. We have that growth, we have all of these kinds of differences from where they started to where they finished, which is, you know, it's perfect. It's what you're looking for. But what it doesn't have is that exceptional emotional investment. Because while you're connected, you're believing what's going on with these guys. You're not crying at the end of it because you're not that invested. You know, not everything has to be about tears. There's other ways to show that investment for sure, but it's not necessarily like it's like there's a few more layers deep that we could have gone. You know, there's definitely that range, but I think what we saw with the juxtaposition of Jack Black and Tom Cruise was that the main characters could have had a bit more depth on top. But the embodiment was there. So what that means is we're talking very high, but not the absolute top. So I think we're literally going to be talking about this top, the bottom of this top category. Because this is very good, but not quite enough, and this is very good, but not quite enough, and this is there. So in fact, maybe it's even 61. 60, 61. I think so, because it's all the parts exceptional but not perfect because of what we're seeing from the other characters. Oh, wow. Not what I was expecting, for sure. But it speaks to what's achievable sometimes when not necessarily, you don't have to take yourself that seriously, but you're still delivering all the important points. I think that's an important thing. Yeah. So let's have a look. 61, 71, 80, 92. Is that right? Let me check that. That is 23. That's 22. Yeah. So it's 93. This is 22. 71. Okay. Yeah. So the top end of exceptional, well, just starting to get into the top end of exceptional. I think it felt a little bit better than that, but I think it's because of how I penalized the points in the script. I think that's what's bringing it down a little bit more than it necessarily feels like. So, if you added those 2 points on that I've kind of penalized off there, then you are literally 95, which is the absolute top end of exceptional. Yeah. So as we can see, quite a few movies reaching that exceptional status as they're kind of reaching for the top but not quite achieving it. I think I'll have to look at my back catalogue of movies and see if we can get something that shows what is reaching that top category to make a difference and be a bit of an example. It's hard because sometimes you think something is probably going to reach that, but doesn't always do it. But I'll have to have a look. We've got a few here in this category, and I think we need to set some examples. And I think as well, maybe we need to look at some things at the bottom end as well. We've got a lot in the middle here, and more at the top of the middle. And we need to see a bit more on either side to what sets these movies apart. But This was a very enjoyable comedy movie, certainly one I recommend. Doing a lot of things that not a lot of other people are, and doing it well. I think this is generally what you get from a few of those little bit older movies. I think in some of the more modern movies, I tend to feel that they're not quite reaching their full potential. But take a look, watch the movie, let me know how you feel, whether you agree with this, whether you think certain things are a bit different, whether you feel I was a little too harsh here with the script. I certainly do think about that, and if there was anywhere I was going to change it, it's certainly going to be there. Alright, subscribe to see what our next review is, and leave a comment of what movie you think I should review next, and join me next week as we take a look at our next film. Thank you, and bye-bye.